This week on the Retirement Quick Tips podcast, I'm talking about navigating the storm, strategies for weathering a stock market downturn. Now, today I'm talking about the added curveball with some of the volatility that we've had this year, and that it's a presidential election year. And this makes people really uneasy because we all want, especially if you follow the news closely or you're like me and you spend way too much time on YouTube watching political commentary. Everybody wants their guy, or in this case, their gal, to win. And they get pretty bent out of shape if the other one wins. And I have clients across the political spectrum, like all the way at the extremes, a lot of clients in the middle, but I do actually have clients who I would put as, extreme right, extreme far left. And one of them told me the other day that if Trump wins, they are going to sell most of their portfolio investments and get really conservative, like go to cash, go to CDs, just kind of shore everything up because they're fearful of what Trump would do to the economy and as a result, their portfolio if he gets back in the White House. Now, this reaction, no matter who wins, would be a mistake. What's interesting about this in particular is that Trump has already been the president for the last 4 years. Like, he didn't anoint himself the dictator. He did not wreck the economy, despite what the mainstream media would have you believe. In fact, my biggest complaint about Trump while he was in office is that he spent a lot, government spending. COVID had some to do with that, but this is a problem. I've talked about this recently. We have a massive deficit. The government takes in this year alone, is going to take in $2 trillion less in income from like taxes and things like that than what we are spending. So we have a big spending problem at the government level, and something needs to be done about that. And I just don't see anyone who is going to tackle that. So I don't see Trump doing much of that if he is reelected. But I digress, because my point is not if Trump or Kamala Harris would be better as president. Doesn't matter what I think. It's critical to keep in mind that the U.S. economy is like a large tanker ship. It takes a lot to change the direction, to move the economy. And a new president, whoever that may be, is not going to have the kind of direct impact on the economy, the markets, and your investment portfolio because they're not a dictator, and they won't be. They're not going to determine the rise and fall, or for better or for worse, of how your portfolio does. Some of you listening are going to disagree with me because it is true that whoever is in power in Washington, whether that be the president, Congress, they do affect policy and their decisions matter. Yes, that is true. And I don't want to minimize that. But the decisions that are made and the laws that are passed don't have immediate impacts. In fact, they often take years to materialize, and they have these downstream effects. And also because the way our government is, and someone new is potentially coming in every 2 to 4 years, there's not a lot that one political party can do because the pendulum usually will, if it goes too far in one direction, it'll swing back the other way. And that is the beauty of the democracy that we have. So it would be a mistake to let your investment decisions get caught up in the emotions of the election, especially if you care a lot about who the next president is. Or in this case, for most people on both sides, who the next president is not. I love how people are not overly enthusiastic about either candidate. They just don't want the other one to win. So even if you end up not wanting to crawl out, or even if you are to the point where you don't want to get out of bed the next day after the election because your person lost, remember that the market, and as a result, your portfolio, never seems to care that much about who is the president. If you look historically, all the way back to the Great Depression, there's not a lot of volatility around election time. And there's no statistical difference between what the market and the returns are in markets leading up to, during, and after an election. There's no separation. You look at how the markets do in the run up and during and after the election compared to normal years where there's not a presidential election. And there's nothing that you could point to that would say, oh, there's reason for me to be concerned. No, don't let your emotions, especially if your person loses, do not let that cloud your judgment about what you should be doing with your investment portfolio and keeping the long-term view in mind. All right, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Ashley Michike, and this is the Retirement Quick Tips Podcast.